the new standard of what we can define as longevity. And this is particularly noticeable in the NBA. I almost might say uniquely so. For you see, in the same years, we'll say 2000, let's say 2000 till now, the bell curve of age in baseball and football has steadily declined, while the NBA's longevity has surreptitiously increased, precipitously, I should say. Um, if you look at the NBA right now, certainly there's a whole ton of young players, but there's also a lot of graybeards, as we'd call them. You have LeBron, you have Durant, you have Curry, you have Thompson, Green, Harden, Westbrook, and there's Paul George is another one. There's probably more. I'm just naming 8 or 9 off the top of my head. And a lot of these guys are still among the very best players in the NBA, despite being 14 years or further into their careers. For perspective, Michael Jordan played a total, I think, of 15 years in the NBA. If you discredit the 2 in Washington, that's 13. Jerry West played, I think, 13. Wilt Chamberlain played, I believe it's was it 59 to 70, so 13 years. Bill Russell played 13. A lot of greats played that many years. Magic Johnson played from 79 to 91. So what is that? 12, 13 years. And then he played that one other one where he came back briefly in 96. Larry Bird, same thing. A lot of the guys that we consider near the top of the all-time food chain in greatest players ever played under 15 years total. And most of those guys, certainly a lot of them anyway, had obvious decay in their play near the end. Jordan certainly did. West and Kareem, who did play a long time, so he's kind of exempt from this list. Wilt's scoring certainly decayed. The fact that guys like LeBron, Durant, Curry, we're not even talking, especially the latter two, who are, of course, a little bit younger than LeBron, we're not even talking about them declining yet. And they're in years, I think Curry's going into year 16 and Durant's going into year 17, right? I mean, and that is multiple years beyond the entirety of the careers of some of the all-time greats. Oscar Robertson's another one. I think he played about 13 or 14 years. I think 1960 to want to say 1973 or something like that. 72, something like that. This is an amazing, amazing reality that has happened sort of right under our nose without any real fanfare or acknowledgement of it. And, you know, a while back, I talked about not falling victim to taking this for granted, as it related specifically to LeBron James and his ability to play at or near his prime performance level 20 years into his career. And I still contend that we shouldn't take that for granted. But the more I take a broader picture, the more I'm convinced that we will have guys regularly now playing near their prime abilities or at their prime abilities well into the teens of their respective careers. 20 plus might still be sort of unique. We'll see. But this is unique. The names that I just rattled off: Durant, Chris Paul, although he's declining now, James Harden, Steph Curry, all these guys, Paul George, all these guys are well into their teens of their respective careers. And in the case of LeBron, he's into the 20s, year 21 coming up for him. And they're still near the top of their game. Let's not pretend that this is historic, has historic precedence, or is in any way anything other than incredible, because it's exactly that. And the question becomes, well, what's it a testament to? I think there's a few things. I think it's certainly a testament to the less physical nature of sports. I think there is an absolute correlation between getting physically pounded on and the erosion of your body more quickly. I think less so the technology of modern medicine or the theory or methodology, and more so the sincerity with which these athletes taking care of their bodies. I mean, the sports world at one point was essentially one big party up until probably about the early 90s, mid 90s or so. And now, because of the amount of money that's at stake and business opportunities and other things, these athletes are from an early age looking to be in shape, extend their careers, maintain their level of play because of what they can get. And teams have caught on. It's not heresy or overly risky now to extend a 14-year veteran a 3 or 4 year contract at max value if it's the right guy. The Warriors would he's not up for contract right now, but they would have no qualms about extending a deal like that right now to Curry, right? Who's entering year, I think, 16. So I think people have to understand the change in mentality of the athletes. They are now a business of one. Well, they have obviously there's more people around them than just themselves, but they are their own asset. Their body is their own asset, and they understand that and work toward preserving that and elongating its effectiveness and maximizing its value more so than at any point in sports history. And why is this happening specifically in basketball and not so in the other sports, with the possible exception of NFL quarterbacks? I think there's a couple of reasons for this. Certainly, basketball is heavily influenced by analytics, but it has at least an equal influence in the form of, well, two equal influences. One in the form of a justified obsession with star players because of their on court obvious impact, and of course, their impact at the gate. And the maybe less justifiable, but no less pronounced influence of agents who are pushing a lot of the change in player approaches that I was just discussing, because they obviously directly benefit from it themselves, as do the people they work with in the business world. So those things are equally powerful in the way in influencing franchise behavior as the influence of analytics. You could see the influence of analytics, most notably in the amount of three-point shots and the load management, and to a lesser extent, the emphasis on offense. But you will see just as much influence on the need to have and maintain star players and the desire of the agents to keep their star guys going and earning money. In other sports, in football, in baseball, there's not a counterbalance influence of significant enough weight to kind of push this longevity of established older stars forward the way it is in the NBA. Baseball does not have the star culture of the NBA, and they are hopelessly married to analytics. And one of the things analytics will say is don't pay a guy over a certain age, and get rid of a guy early, not late, and go with younger, cheaper, less proven players, because that's the best thing to do statistically. And because there's no star power counterbalancing that, there's not the same push by the agents because they can't benefit as greatly, because you need that star power as an agent to benefit. So consequently, you don't see it in baseball. In football, I think it's just too much of a physical meat grinder in most cases at most positions to have anyone relatively um able to sustain at a high level of play, other than an occasional freak of nature. Yeah, every once in a while you'll get like a Walter Jones, you'll get a Ray Lewis, but for the most part, unless you're a quarterback or a punter or kicker, you're not playing 20 years at a high level, 15, 17 years at a high level. Every now and again, you'll get a Rod Woodson or a Charles Woodson. There's outliers, but you'll never have a scenario in the NFL, I don't think, where you have arguably 10 to 15, maybe 20% of your league's top 20 players being in year 14 and beyond, like you do in the NBA right now. I just don't think you'll ever get that in the NFL because it's too much of a meat grinder, with the exception of quarterbacks. So it's not going to happen there. So this is unique to basketball. It's unique to pro basketball, and it's an interesting thing to watch. And I've made a special notice of it to see kind of how it unfolds. And personally, I think it's been a lot of fun. And it's cool because you know what it does? It connects generations. When you get into year 15 and beyond, you are the product of now the second youngest adult generation in America. You are the product of the millennial generation, maybe even what we call the Zennial generation, which is like the older section of the millennials, those born between like 80 and 87 or something like that. And now the Gen Z crowd, which is the crowd that is born from about 1995 forward. That is an interesting thing because it kind of connects one generation to the next. There's cross discussion of athletes who are older for Gen Z and younger for the millennials, and it really makes for a good conversation. It's harder to do in the other sports, so I've enjoyed it very much. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got more to get to. This is the Gary Ayd Show. Question of the day is next here on The Cave.
Is now officially home to the home run of our favorite beverage, Days Coffee. Days' patented blend contains approximately 85% less caffeine than other coffees, which makes it better for you, yet unlike decaf coffee, still gives you that great pickup and tastes amazing. Formulated by a retired cancer pathologist, Dr. Grant Lee, Days Coffee is fermented with a patented enzyme that until now required a complex and thus expensive sourcing and production process. With Dr. Lee's formulation, this enzyme's great health benefits can now be brought to your cup quicker, easier, and cheaper than ever before. Here's how you get a hold of this game-changing cup of joe. Go over to RadioOnlyDeals.com and get a $4 gift certificate to Days Coffee for just $2. That's RadioOnlyDeals.com to buy your single-use digital gift certificate for Days Coffee. RadioOnlyDeals.com. That's RadioOnlyDeals.com. Enjoy the preferred coffee of the Gary Ayd Show. Enjoy Days Coffee.
What's up, Cave Talk Radio fans? If you're looking for a great dinner and a tremendous atmosphere, look no further than Carter's Restaurant in Beacon, New York. It's a family-run restaurant, and as soon as you walk in the door, you will feel like part of their family, as they will be there to greet you and say goodbye as you leave. Make sure to try their Chicken Eugene. It's their specialty dish, originally created by Chef Eugene Greco, who taught the dish to the chefs at Carter's. Jonathan Lombardi, the chef of Carter's, is himself a CIA graduate, by the way. Carter's Restaurant is the go-to place for private events such as rehearsal dinners, cocktail parties, baby showers, and more. It's open every day except Wednesday, and the kitchen is open from 12 to 10 every day, but for Sunday, when it's open 11 to 8. The bar is open even later. Mention Cave Talk Radio and you get 20% off your bill with the exception of happy hour. Again, Cave Talk Radio for 20% off your bill at Carter's Restaurant in Beacon, where your family will join the family of Carter's.
Older fans are mourning the loss of tradition. I am KO, back in 1 minute with your sports question of the day.
Duke the Pug will soon turn 20, which is pretty good for a dog breed that averages 11 years. When Duke was 13, he lost a lot of hair, had a hard time getting up for a walk, and his bowel movements were not very moving. We started making his food instead of buying it. We cook up a big batch of rice, chicken, broccoli, carrots, and turmeric, freeze meal-sized batches, and thaw them at mealtime. We also sprinkle Arthrodex on each meal. Arthrodex is a complete blend of plant-derived minerals, vitamins, amino acids, and enzymes formulated to make old dogs young again. And it does. Duke the Pug does have his problems, but he has all his hair, loves daily walks, and has no problems with his movements. Breakfast is at 7, and if it's not there by 7:01, we all hear about it. Make your old dog young again. Pick up Arthrodex at nutrients2go.com. Nutrients2go.com. Nutrients2go.com.
The Big Ten's edition of USC and UCLA led sports marketing and media company Playfly to commission a survey to measure the fan climate on conference realignment. The survey found that younger audiences were more likely to be receptive to conference realignment, with 42% of respondents ages 18 to 34 having a favorable view. Nearly a quarter of respondents said they will watch more college sports post-realignment, with the only exception being respondents over age 65 who have concerns about the disruption of traditional rivalries. Question: are you or are you not attached to your alma mater's traditional rivalries?
See, I've never liked this conversation. There's a couple of things here. First and foremost, let me be transparent. I don't care one little bit personally because I don't really follow or care to follow college sports, right? I'm not interested. Never was, never will be. Occasionally there'll be a single player that I want to watch, someone like a Greg Oden, someone like a Kevin Durant, someone like a Blake Griffin in college basketball. Every so often there's a guy in college football that I want to watch, and Adrian Peterson, someone like that. But for the most part, I don't really care. And I'm not going to. Now, that said, let me answer the question. I don't think either side has ever had this right. The idea that, let's just take an obvious example. Let's say we moved either Duke or UNC out of the ACC to whatever conference you want to consider. Let's say you moved Duke to, I don't know, the Big East, the Big Ten, whatever, the SEC. Let's just say the SEC, and you kept Carolina in the ACC. You don't think the schools at the administrations at both those schools and conference officials wouldn't be sensible to, if nothing else, the commercial value of maintaining on their respective schedules on an annual basis games between those two teams as odes and continuations of traditional rivalries? Are you really that siloed in your thinking to assume that these rivalry games wouldn't continue unabated? Now, when you say, well, it won't mean the same because they're not competing in the same conference, what does that matter right now anyway? I mean, does it really make a difference in a one and done tournament in either sport who wins the conference? Like, let's take the basketball tournament for a second. Does it matter if you have an at-large bid or qualify via winning your conference? So in that sense, the lack of conference implication, if you were to do this in this example of Duke and UNC, is fairly minimal because it's a one and done tournament anyway. And in football, of course, you have to make the playoff to even have it matter. So it's not like basketball where just winning your conference gets you an automatic bid. The tournament, the college football playoff is more exclusive than that. So what does that even matter? What impact does it really have? It has very little. So to me, who cares? So I guess, because I'm older than that age of, I think they said 16 to 34, that seemed most comfortable with this, and far younger than the 65 plus. I'm in that large middle. I'm 38 years old. I don't give two craps. Doesn't matter one would. I'm not a proponent of the alignment. I'm not an opponent of it. I am purely apathetic toward it. It doesn't make one bit of difference because I just assume, and look, if I'm wrong about this, if they have the realignment and I prove to be wrong about this, then I'll have a different opinion and I'll say, okay, I was wrong. But I'm of the view that these schools that have traditional rivals, whether they're in the same conference or not, will still make a way to play each other to continue those rivalries. And I think ultimately, anyone who is engaged as a fan in these rivalries, as an alumni or anything else, will continue to be so. You're going to tell me, if you have been a season ticket holder to North Carolina basketball for any length of time, if you're an alumni of Duke, that if one of them moved to a different conference other than the ACC, assuming the games continue to be played between the two teams every year, you're going to tell me you're going to stop caring about those games? Those games are going to somehow not be special to you anymore? You're going to stop going to those games? You're going to stop watching them on TV? I'm sorry, I'm calling your bluff. I think you're full of it. There's no way anyone that really cares is going to do that. They might gripe and complain and wax poetic nostalgically about the good old days, but they're going to continue on. And the ones that don't probably were looking for an excuse anyway, because people do at some point phase out of fandom. They become too stuck in the too distant past to continue to find enjoyment in the present. This happens to a lot of people in a lot of walks of life. We've all seen these people. It's the get off my lawn guy, right? Back in my day, this was better and that was better and this sucks now and these damn kids, it's that guy. We all know those people, right? And try not to become one of them. And look, that doesn't mean that there aren't things from the past that warrant objectively better than things of the present. I do believe that. For example, I absolutely believe it was a more enjoyable experience, if not more convenient, but a much more enjoyable experience to go to Blockbuster or a physical video store, look around, not sure what you're going to find, and just pick something and go watch a movie that night. That was much more enjoyable than having to think, what do I feel like watching, or poking around the internet, not really knowing what the actual inventory is because, it's not on a shelf in front of you. You have to think of the keywords to hit or rely on the algorithms to learn your preferences and make a good suggestion. It's not quite the same. So, but by and large, there is at least an equal proportion of improvements and regressions with the ever-marching change of progress that we all live with throughout our own lives. And then I think there's a large group of changes that, and this one falls into it for me, are completely and totally irrelevant. They're not better, they're not worse, they're just different. And to that end, if I was one of these conference officials, maybe I don't do it just because what's the difference? Well, the difference is probably money, probably survival of the fittest, consolidation of conferences. There's probably financial reasons for it. And if there's financial reasons for it, then so be it. Because I don't think it really matters. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got Seth Kamens up next. This is the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
Alrighty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show, and we are joined now by Seth Kamens, brought to you by Days Coffee. Lower caffeine, still a great pickup, convenient to Middletown, open till 5 p.m. weekdays, 6 p.m. on the weekends, closed on Tuesdays. That's Days Coffee on North Street. What's up, Seth? How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. What's going on? I can't tell you how excited I am for the big NBA in-season tournament.
I can taste your sarcasm. Now,
it's crap.
Now, okay, let's start there because this is something I haven't addressed yet. And as I'm just coming off my last segment, the summary of it being a lot of changes in the world and in sports, I view as indifferent, not good, not bad, just different. Sometimes there's good ones, sometimes there's bad ones. This one, to me, I haven't made up my mind yet if it's indifferent or if it's bad. It's certainly not good, but I have a feeling for myself, and this is just a feeling. I reserve the right to change my mind on this once I experience it. But I have a feeling it's going to be akin to an extended All-Star break where I'm just not going to pay much attention and then pick up when the, quote, real games get started again, even though, like they did with baseball back in the day with the All-Star game, they're going to try to make this count by making all of the stats, except for the championship games, count in the regular season. That's the part that makes me unsure of where this is going to fall on my spectrum of caring or just thinking, whatever, I'll just ignore it. I don't know yet, but my initial gut is going to be I'm probably just going to not pay it a lot of mind is what I'm feeling right now.
They're trying to copy soccer.
Why would you do that?
Well, because some people like soccer. But the whole value, including me. So, but the whole value, this is an EPL thing, an English Premier League thing. What they do, or English Soccer League thing, what they do is because you have relegations, you have like 6 levels of soccer.
Right.
You have Premier League, Champions League, so on and so forth. It's called the FA Cup. And what's neat about it is you have teams from level 2 can play Manchester United. And sometimes they beat them once in a blue moon because Manchester United is not paying attention. And that's the coolness of it. That's why it's enjoyable or interesting.
So we could have G League teams playing NBA teams?
But that's why it doesn't work. You'd have
Do the Hornets get demoted for sucking for 20 years?
Well, they should. So should the Knicks.
Oh, the Knicks were actually good last year. But hey.
Well, yes, they've had 2 good years in 20, and they'll be good this year. Congratulations. But the practicality is that's the value. And that's the interest because it gives the lower tier league teams the 1 in a million shot or the 1 in 1,000 shot.
Okay, I can buy that explanation if you included those same mechanisms, but
right, but you can't because the NBA doesn't have that.
Right, so it becomes pointless. Right, it becomes pointless then, right?
Yeah, this to me is utterly stupid.
Yeah,
I get to watch the Nuggets versus the Lakers. Who gives a crap? I can watch the Nuggets versus the Lakers
without the tournament. Right, without the tournament. Right, yeah, I don't. I often defend Adam Silver as I believe the single best commissioner in sports right now. And he actually very recently as I think it was yesterday, it might have been Monday, came out with it was reported that he is and the league is completely moving forward in its ownership to the exclusion of sovereign wealth funds, aka countries buying controlling stakes in NBA franchises the way Live Golf and the PGA are now doing. And I commend him immensely for that. I think that's a prudent separation of world politics and sports entertainment. I think that's a dangerous path, and I'm glad that he's avoiding that, at least for the time being. That's an example of leadership to me. This is an example of ideological, just not political ideology, just some other form of ideology, just taking hold of his better judgment. This just seems like putting a square peg in a round hole that's for no reason.
Yeah. They're trying to make the regular season interesting. They can't because it's an 82 game regular season.
I think you could make it 20 games and people would still say it's not interesting. That's the problem with that solution. they would still just wait for the playoffs like they do now. I don't think you can cut it enough to satisfy that crowd. I don't believe that at all.
Probably not.
And that's the problem. So I would just leave it alone because I don't think you can satisfy them anyway. I think I think the approach is on the other side of it. Make the playoffs less important, not try to artificially enhance the regular season, de-enhance the playoffs. Get away from this ring or bust culture. Like that would be my approach. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, that's how I would take it.
Sorry, run it by.
Oh,
sorry,
no, I was saying, no, that's fine. I was saying that instead of trying to artificially enhance the regular season, because I don't think you can, and I don't think you can cut it enough to satisfy the people that say it's not important, let's make the playoffs less important. Let's walk away from this ledge of championship or bust mentality and enjoy these games, including the regular season, for what they are, a great nightly exhibition of the greatest athletes in the world that produce physical feats that most of us can't dream about doing. Like, let's reshape the focus.
No argument.
Because that's what I like about basketball.
No, I get it. No, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
sorry.
I got a question for you now. You're my resident Portland guy.
Yep.
Break me down your thoughts on what's going on around Lillard. What would you? Let's start with this. What would satisfy you as a Blazers supporter? Like what now that the cat's out of the bag, now that they are going to trade him, what would you be happy with, and what do you think is maybe holding on for too much? Like, where do you draw that balance?
Well, where I go is I wish he had said this a week, and I have no problem with him requesting the trade. I wish he had said it a week and a half ago, because then they don't re-sign Jeremy Grant to a 5-year, $160 million deal.
Right.
That's what annoys me.
Right.
He wants to go to Miami. Miami has nothing to offer him. They just don't.
Right.
They have nothing to offer because they don't want Tyler Hero. So you're looking at Philly trying to get Maxey in a couple picks. The Nets are going to have, unless they're going to go for expirings, there's not much the Nets are going to offer. He's a weird value. He's 33, 34 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He can he win a championship with Embiid potentially? Yeah. With Butler and Adebayo? Yeah, maybe, but he can't be a definitive one and win one.
Right.
Let's be honest, he's never been close.
Right. That's true.
And so I don't know to me, if I'm Miami, would I give up Tyler Hero and Caleb Martin and 3 first round picks? Yeah, because the first round picks are always going to be in the 20s anyway.
Right.
So I don't see the problem. But I don't see the Nets, the Nets aren't going to trade Bridges. That doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. Why the hell would the Nets do that? Yeah,
the Nets just become Portland at that point.
Exactly. Because, Lillard made a very good point that there is, he doesn't want to be traded to a team where they're giving up their whole team because then he's back in the same position he's in.
Right. What about this? Now, my guess is that this is probably, I'm assuming Portland wants young, ready-made players and draft picks. I don't know what their definition of young is going to be, but the guy I'm going to propose isn't old. You can do some draft picks and maybe even another player or two. And I think it's an upgrade for both teams. What about a deal centered around Jalen Brunson and Damian Lillard? Because I think Lillard's a significant upgrade over Brunson. I think we've seen the best of Brunson, and I think this is the top you can get with him. And I think that Lillard would be more in line with their timeline right now. And I think Brunson is a guy that can facsimile what Lillard brings to the table to kind of placate fans and keep an interesting product on the floor while you rebuild around him. I think he's still young enough to do that. What are your thoughts?
Look, I think you've never been a big guy on Brunson.
No, he's not my favorite.
He's not. So to me, yeah, if in your mind, I mean, Brunson gives Portland, it gives them another guard, which they with Henderson and Simons, I'm not really sure that's what they need.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
it gives you a younger talent at a much better price point.
Yep.
And it makes someone else potentially tradable to get some front court help.
Yeah, maybe you can trade a Simons to get, a guy who can help you in the front court.
Yep.
Or Sharp maybe. I would probably, if I was Portland, I'd probably prioritize Simons. Oh, you would would trade Simons. Okay.
I'd trade Simons. All right, Gary, I gotta jump off.
All right, man.
But I'll see you on our call on our show in an hour.
Yep. See you then. All right, there you go. Look, I actually don't think Lillard solves many problems for many teams. And we had to cut our call there with Seth a little short, but I think we were getting to that. And I think that's going to be the challenge for Portland. They may see 3-4 first round picks, 2 young players. They might see that all they want. I personally think they're not going to get anywhere close to that. I think that the problem is, name one situation, just one, where the team acquiring Lillard has the assets, the multiple draft picks, and the 1 or 2 good young players to trade for Lillard, not strip their team barren at that point, as Seth said that Lillard doesn't want because he's back in the same position, and their acquisition of him puts them over the top to win a title, which is his goal. Who is that team? I don't even think it's Miami. I think Miami is better with him, assuming it's, say, Hero and let's say it's Hero and Robinson are the 2 players, and then a bunch of draft picks. Do I think they're a little bit better? Yeah, maybe. Perhaps, but not significantly. I don't think they wouldn't be my favorite still. Is Philadelphia? Let's say they trade Harden in one deal, and then they acquire Lillard in another, because you're not going to trade Harden for Lillard. Portland's no interest in a guy like that. So does that make them a title contending team? Let's say they trade Maxey, some draft picks, and one of their other players. I'd have to look at their roster. Is that enough? Does that satisfy Portland? I don't know. Does it make them better? A lot depends on what they ended up getting for Harden, because appreciably Harden and Lillard are the same level guy. So if you got minimal for Harden in terms of functional use for today, I don't know that you'll necessarily be appreciably better with Lillard, but I think that's probably the closest scenario. If you manage to get sound pieces for Harden, let's say you were able to get a nice versatile wing, and let's say you traded Harden to a team like Cleveland, and you got a guy like a Karis LeVert, and maybe like a backup forward, like a Larry Nance type. And I'm not suggesting Cleveland would have any interest in doing this, but let's just say that those are the type of plays. If you got that type of haul for James Harden, I think then acquiring Lillard for, say, Maxey and one other player perhaps, and then some draft picks, and you add in a core, you have a core then of Lillard, Embiid, couple of good players like LeVert and Nance from the deal. Maybe you're close to being a title contender. Maybe. But I think this is a tough thing. I think Lillard, like Seth said, is a weird value. He's too good to be acquired cheaply, but he's too far down the list of difference makers to be easily seen for what you'll have to pay to get him as the missing piece to a team for a title. And so I think this is going to be a tough one to negotiate. I really do. I know if I was Portland, I would be satisfied with a really good young player, another solid player, and 2 first rounders and cap space. So I can kind of proceed with my roster as I will from there. That would be my personal approach. We'll see. Certainly something to keep an eye on. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show with some news you can use. This is the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Coffee Lovers Middletown is now officially home to the home run of our favorite beverage, Days Coffee. Days patented blend contains approximately 85% less caffeine than other coffees, which makes it better for you, yet unlike decaf coffee, still gives you that great pickup and tastes amazing. Formulated by a retired cancer pathologist, Dr. Grant Lee, Days Coffee is fermented with a patented enzyme that until now required a complex and thus expensive sourcing and production process. With Dr. Lee's formulation, this enzyme's great health benefits can now be brought to your cup quicker, easier, and cheaper than ever before. Here's how you get a hold of this game-changing cup of joe. Go over to radioonlydeals.com and get a $4 gift certificate to Days Coffee for just $2. That's radioonlydeals.com to buy your single-use digital gift certificate for Days Coffee. Radioonlydeals.com. That's radioonlydeals.com. Enjoy the preferred coffee of the Gary Ayd Show. Enjoy Days Coffee.
What's up, Cave Talk Radio fans? If you're looking for a great dinner and a tremendous atmosphere, look no further than Carter's Restaurant in Beacon, New York. It's a family-run restaurant, and as soon as you walk in the door, you will feel like part of their family, as they will be there to greet you and say goodbye as you leave. Make sure to try their Chicken Eugene. It's their specialty dish, originally created by Chef Eugene Greco, who taught the dish to the chefs at Carter's. Jonathan Lombardi, the chef of Carter's, is himself a CIA graduate, by the way. Carter's Restaurant is the go-to place for private events such as rehearsal dinners, cocktail parties, baby showers, and more. It's open every day except Wednesday, and the kitchen is open from 12 to 10 every day, but for Sunday, when it's open 11 to 8. The bar is open even later. Mention Cave Talk Radio and you get 20% off your bill with the exception of happy hour. Again, Cave Talk Radio for 20% off your bill at Carter's Restaurant in Beacon, where your family will join the family of Carter's. Alrighty, so we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show. We got about 10, 12 minutes or so left. Rich Anselmo texts in that I'll just read it to you real quick regarding our conversation about Damian Lillard from a moment ago. Lillard is older and has trouble staying healthy. I hate players that demand trades and tell teams there is only one team they will play for. I would wait. Players have all the power. This is Silver's NBA. I agree with most of that. Lillard is older. He does have trouble staying healthy. I think it's a disservice to everybody in the equation when they demand trades to one team. And I agree, I would wait. I don't think this has anything to do with Adam Silver. I think ultimately the very reality of a 5-man on the court sport produces the power that players have. And it just took them a little while, some decades really, to figure out how to wield it. Because ultimately, their power comes from the fact that they make a huge difference on the court, or they make an enormous difference at the box office. Now, in the case of Lillard, at times he's made a huge difference on the court, but he invariably makes an enormous difference for Portland's box office. Even if you get functionally better on the court by, say, acquiring, let's just say they did the Jalen Brunson deal, and let's say they got a little bit better because of it. He's not going to have the same selling power that Lillard has in that market. So the power of the players doesn't come from Silver somehow bowing to them. It comes from the natural market forces of what one guy does, both on the court and even more frequently, filling the arenas, getting people to watch on television, getting people talking about the team, getting earned media coverage on a regular basis beyond the league required coverage of broadcast contracts. That's what a player like Damian Lillard does. Even if Lillard is not of the level that can single-handedly keep a team and elevate a team to championship relevance, which there's no doubt he's not. But even that aside, he's still one of the probably 8 or so most marketable, recognizable, and popular players in the league. And you don't just replace that. And that has nothing to do with Adam Silver's commissionership or the way he steers the league, and everything to do with just the dynamics of how basketball is played and consumed. Consumed by in terms of from the fans' perspective. Unlike baseball, basketball is consumed on a national basis off of the basis of star power. It just is. And honestly, it always has been. I mean, this is going back, realistically, probably to the days of Russell and Chamberlain, this dynamic of individual star power sort of ruling the day, ruling the roost. And I don't think that has nothing to do with Adam Silver. Now, I think it's pretty funny, and I saw a post about this some time ago, that until now, Lillard, for deciding to stay put in Portland, was considered loyal, and LeBron, for moving around to different teams, was considered unloyal, even though LeBron had never once requested a trade, never once had been traded, and always did things through his free agency. Lillard, of course, now has requested a trade and is still perceived as, quote, loyal. It's just interesting. But that aside, I think he's a tough valuation. If I'm a team that is in the market, perhaps, I have to get this guy at the right price. I just have to. If I'm a team like, it would be an interesting pairing. Him and Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland would be very interesting. And Portland needs front court help. Could Cleveland perhaps trade LeVert, a salary of some kind to make numbers work, and maybe either Mobley or Allen, one of the two, along with perhaps a draft pick or two, for Damian Lillard? Does that work? Well, let's examine it. From my perspective, that's about as much as Portland could potentially ever hope for Lillard. Cleveland, who was good last year, but seemed to have kind of reached their ceiling of their talent due to a often stagnated offense, benefits from one of the most offensively explosive players in the NBA, instantly has more box office appeal, because as good as Mitchell is, he doesn't quite have the cachet of Lillard. You now have a dynamic backcourt with one of the guys in Mitchell being still relatively young, in his mid to late 20s. You still have one of the two front court guys. I would probably prefer to keep Allen than Mobley, because I think he does more of the things you need when you don't have two bigs. But you keep one of the two. You don't really have a consistent spot for LeVert. Portland could use another wing. And now all of a sudden, if you're Cleveland, you're probably a few roster augmentations away, if that much, from being one of the very best teams in the Eastern Conference. And if you're Portland, you got what you wanted. You got two youngish players, some draft picks, and you probably had to take back a salary to make the math work. I was Kevin Love, or I don't know. I'd have to look at the cap situation in the teams. But that might be the best option. And because he spent his whole career in Portland, playing in a place like Cleveland probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But as Rich pointed out, he has said, I'm only going to Miami. Well, that might not be tenable. And then if that's the case, then what? And I think that's the fly in the ointment here, is no team is going to give Portland anything close to what it wants unless it knows it can secure a long-term commitment from Lillard. And if he's only saying he's willing to be in Miami and nowhere else long-term, well, that's going to have the dual effect of precluding other teams from giving up anything other than what they would view as sensible for essentially a rental, which would mean a team that thinks getting Lillard now would win them a championship, a la like Toronto with Kawhi a number of years ago. Maybe that's Philadelphia. Maybe that's the Lakers. Maybe that's the Clippers. There might be a few teams that say, I'll give up something, but it's not going to be what Portland wants to rent Lillard for a year, try to win a title, and then, we're going to lose him probably if he keeps to his word. And at the same time, if you're Miami, well, he just wants to come here. Portland doesn't have a choice because they're not going to get the value they need from anyone else because it's going to be viewed as a rental. So we're going to reduce our offer too because we have all the leverage here. So where does that leave Lillard then? His own request is going to preclude him from his ultimate desire. So even if that was true, you really shouldn't have expressed that. So it's going to be interesting to follow. Baseball resumes on Friday after the All-Star break since 2012. The National League got their first All-Star game win yesterday. So yay, National League. We'll see where it goes from there. We will see you tomorrow. This is the Gary Ayd Show. We'll be back tomorrow from 4 to 5 here on The Cave.
Coffee Lovers Middletown is now officially home to the home run of our favorite beverage, Days Coffee. Days patented blend contains approximately 85% less caffeine